y'all, Dixie here. Today I want to do a full review of the TopoAthletic Terraventure 2s. I wore the Terraventure 2s for about 100 miles at the end of my thru hike of the Pinhoti Trail, and then for about the first 600 or so miles at the beginning of my Florida Trail thru hike. So I have roughly 700 miles or so experience with the Terraventure 2s, and I feel like I've got a pretty good idea of the ins and the outs. First, let's cover the specs. The stack height for this shoe is 25 millimeters in the back and 22 millimeters in the front. That gives you a 3 millimeter drop from your heel down to the toe. The claimed weight for the pair as a whole is 21.6 ounces or 10.8 ounces individually. I believe that's for a size 9 in men's, but I have pretty big feet, so I wear a size 11. Mine are gonna weigh more than this, but this at least gives you a point of reference for whatever your shoe size is. Some of the features of the Terraventure 2 that I think are desirable are some pretty deep lugs for traction in the mud, and this is nice if you're not sure of the type of terrain you're going to be on. You know, some folks might go hiking only on good weather days and on nice, smooth, flat terrain. But if you're the kind that might go out for several days, or you don't mind to go hiking in the rain, then having that extra grip with the deeper lugs might be something that you find beneficial in this pair of shoes. The Terraventure 2s also have what they call a padded ankle collar. So it is much more cushiony around the ankle area for extra comfort. And then the mesh upper is designed to allow ventilation of the foot to hopefully help with some funky foot stuff. If your feet can stay ventilated, then that of course helps with blisters, or if you end up in the rain or tromping through some mud, then that's designed to help them dry out more quickly. And of course, most trail runners have this, but it just shows how they contrast against boots, for example. The going price for the Terraventure 2s when I got mine was $120, but you can find them for much cheaper now. I just checked it out today on Amazon and on rei.com. As far as my personal thoughts on these shoes and how they performed for me, I really do like the Terraventure 2s. I was a little concerned that the extra cushion around the ankles in particular would possibly cause some rubbing on my ankle or just be annoying, but it turned out to be the opposite. And also I was afraid that the extra cushion would hold in too much water and the shoes wouldn't dry as quickly. If you were to have a drying contest and just set out the Terraventure 2s next to something less cushiony like the Lone Peak 5s from Ultra, for example, I do think that the Terraventure 2s would take a little bit longer to dry out, but it was worth it to me for that because they were a bit more cushiony, and I still felt like with the mesh on the shoe and the lightweight design of the shoe in general, that they just tend to dry out quick enough that it wasn't a problem like wearing boots. But again, if you're doing day hikes or you're only going out when you know the weather will be good, then this might not even be a huge consideration for you. I tend to like more minimalistic shoes, not to the far extreme on that, but I do like a smaller stack height, and I like to be able to feel what's going on under my foot. So I was afraid with the Vibram sole and the rock plate that I wouldn't still have the sensation of knowing what's under my feet, but I actually found that to not be true also. But again, this depends on the type of walking that you're doing, because if you're going to be on more hardened surfaces like road walks or sidewalks or even hard gravel, super rocky areas, then you might also like the more sturdy sole with the rock plate. But if you're typically on trails that have beds of pine needles and very organic, mattery topsoil, then it might not be as important to you to have that sturdy sole. The Terraventure 2s have a wide toe box, which I pretty much require now out of a trail runner because my toes really like to stretch out. I swear I'm like very multi-jointed in my toes or something because I feel like I could play the guitar or piano with them. So I know when I walk, they're really stretching out and gripping. So having that wide toe box helps me not have an uncomfortable experience. I'm sure it reduces blisters in some people who are more blister prone. And also it gives me more comfort because I tend to get ingrown toenails. so that helps prevent any sort of rubbing on the shoe that could encourage my toenails to be ingrown again. The main thing that I was impressed with is that these shoes lasted me roughly 700 miles, and I felt like they were still in pretty decent condition. Of course, I had some holes in the mesh area. That's pretty common when you wear trail runners up to 500 miles or so. Can even happen before that, but that was just a cosmetic issue. As far as the tread on the bottom, I thought that they still looked pretty good, and also my foot was not hurting. And if you've watched this channel for any length of time, then you probably heard me talk about I religiously replace my trail runners once they hit about 500 miles because they tend to lose the support in the shoe, and then I start to feel my plantar fascia yelling at me because it's, I assume, hyper extending from not having enough support. So when I start approaching that 500 miles, usually I'll feel a little twinge or so in my plantar fascia, but I didn't with the Terraventure 2s. And honestly, I would have replaced them sooner, but I went to an REI while I was out on the Florida Trail. They didn't have the shoes that I was looking for to replace them, and I ended up having to order the shoes to come to a post office along the trail ahead. So I stretched them out much longer than I would have wanted to, but I'm really glad that I did because I saw that for my body I could continue to push these shoes, and they held up in durability wise and then also in support for my picky arches. Because I have had some issues with plantar fasciitis in the past, I know that zero drop shoes have helped a lot of people kind of recover from that. For myself, I think the main thing was I was pushing my trail runners too long and again not having enough support. But I did move to the zero drop shoe while I was on my thru hike of the Pacific Crest Trail back in 2017, and I haven't looked back really until these TopoAthletic Terraventure 2s. The 3mm drop that they have is pretty shallow in drop of athletic shoes, but still I was a little bit worried that it would cause me some troubles, and I didn't notice any difference. So I may in the future try the TopoAthletic Run Venture shoes. I think they're currently on the 3rd generation of those, but at some point in the future I'd like to test that out and see if I can tell a difference between TopoAthletic's 3mm drop and 0mm drop. The only real complaint that I have about the TopoAthletic Terraventure 2s is they're just not pretty. And honestly, this isn't something that's super important to me. I would much rather feel better on trail than look at my feet and go, wow, they look so nice. I mean, they already look like boats on my feet, just because my feet are so big. But I do think that if they offered some brighter or more interesting colors in the men's, that it would be really nice. I mean, men like to look kind of brats sometimes too. Now for the lady shoes, I do think that they have some more exciting colors, but just the olivey, drab, brownish color, it's not really my thing. Overall, the Terraventure 2s have been a very solid trail runner for me based on my personal preferences, and they've lasted longer and worked better for my foot than any trail runner I've had before. So I'll definitely continue to use them in the future. In fact, I found out today when I was doing a little bit of research just to make sure that the Terraventure 2s were still similarly priced to what I paid for them months and months ago. And I found out the reason that they are so discounted now is because TopoAthletic has come out with the 3rd generation, the Terraventure 3s. Unfortunately, they still don't have very exciting colors in the men's, but I ordered a pair of the navy blues, so hopefully I'm going to get to test those out when I head out to the Tetons to do some backpacking in the nearest future. The main differences I can tell before seeing them in person between the Terraventure 2s and 3s is that they've shaved off a little bit of weight. Also, they're using a more durable mesh in the forefoot area, so that should help with the issue that I was talking about previously with the little holes that I saw in the mesh of my 2s. They say they've designed the outsole to be more slip resistant. I didn't really notice an issue with slipping or anything with the Terraventure 2s, but maybe on some steeper inclines and more slippery rocks, it's something that really will come in handy. But as far as the stack height, the rock plate, and the cushion of the shoe, those features seem to have stayed the same, but I will let y'all know whenever I test them out and get back home. All right, y'all, well, that is all I have for you today on the TopoAthletic Terraventure 2s, and all I have for you on the threes now also. But if any of y'all have been fortunate enough to try the TopoAthletic Terraventure 2s, or especially the 3s, I would love to hear if you liked them or if you didn't like them and why. If you could leave that in the comments below, I think that that would really help other people who are shopping for trail runners, because you know, I'll find a feature that I absolutely love where somebody else would probably really hate it. It's just everybody's feet are so different. So by your experience with it and why you didn't like it, somebody else might can go, you know, my feet are the same kind of picky as that person's foot, so I probably wouldn't like this shoe for those same reasons, or I probably would. Anyway, thank y'all so much, and if you found this video useful, don't forget to subscribe before you go, and we will see y'all next time.